Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, something semi epic. I don't know if anything is epic anymore until something really big happens. Everything's just, an anticipatory type of situation. But Trump and Elon Musk just admitted to you, and without saying it, obviously, without saying it, that you're effed, that the economy is done, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. That the debt is, you know, made the American economy insolvent, which happened years and years ago. I don't know. I can't. I'm not an economist, so I don't know exactly when it was. But it was when your debt is this is what happens to banks. Banks become insolvent because they take on too much debt. A bank will take on too much debt, and that their liabilities outweigh their assets so much that they can never get get right. And America's been in that case for a long time. It isn't just the national debt, which I'll get into in a moment, but it's all of the debt, right? And so the economy's unsolvent. That Doge was a complete disaster. And I'll show you that in a moment. Um, that's a big moment. And then I'll get to a few more Trump stuff. And then I have a bunch of comments. People ask me questions I want to answer about various topics, mostly spirituality, I think. I can't remember. But I was going to do that at the beginning of the video, but I feel like I'll do it, um, you know, here instead. And so let's start with this. This is the AI thinks Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston look like without the fame and fortune. And so I went on Facebook and I saw that there was this meme, and I was just going to show this meme because it's kind of funny, good meme, right? But then I started scrolling through and I realized all the memes are now done by AI. I've noticed this without noticing it. Without, sometimes you see something, it doesn't register. But I covered AI yesterday, and AI is taking over lots of things already. And people are just, dabbling in it. It's less than, 1% of the, it's in the less than 1% of what's going to happen and what people could use it for and the jobs it's going to replace. I talked about this yesterday. So AI is as big of a indicator of the collapse because what AI does is it makes people less. It makes people more dependent on technology and less skilled in themselves. So we already are fucked that way. We're already, upside down in that situation. And these kids growing up with AI, they're not going to develop, their brains aren't going to develop all these various, not just brains, their minds, your consciousness, they're just not going to have the same level. Like when we left the farm, we lost a lot years and years ago, and I talk about that. When we left the Aboriginal tribal type of village based situation, we hemorrhaged a lot of skills, and now it became more dependent on the system, the beast, and that's just happened over and over again with each technological revolution. So certainly with cell phones and things. Now with AI, it's even more so. And you have this, we're walking around now with AI in your phone, or you will be if you haven't got it already. And it's like your friend. And I've already started using AI on my phone, and it just makes searching the internet so much easier. Now, for truthers, at least, it doesn't give you the answers that you would necessarily be looking for because it doesn't have the capacity to do, truther analysis. I mean, maybe it does, and it puts program against it. And so, you'd have to have a truther setting. But it's just not, I don't think AI will be able to do that because of it's able to comb through the official story and some of the fringe stuff. But it doesn't necessarily understand, I don't know. But it's never going to be great for us. So we'll still have to use our bullshit detector stuff that we do. In terms of like, you already have to do that now. I don't know if they'll clean that up, and they probably won't allow it to be cleaned up because it's just, it's programmed for whatever. But it's like this oracle that people are going to for answers. And that's just the beginning, right? It's going to do more and more for people, and then people are going to be hemorrhaging abilities, and so if the system doesn't collapse of its own, by its own, its own, the debt or whatever it is, then the AI will make everything worse. Like people will be just nothing anymore. They'll just be why, especially when the jobs start disappearing. There could be massive population reduction. Robots will do everything physical, and AI will do everything mental. And people will just, sit there. It'll be all pleasure based, non-working, non-stress level existence, unnatural existence. So this one, the Bezoses, they really did her up here. And you can see these are AI generated. Um, so, and even something like this. So subtle. I mean, she looks, this dude right here is, has fucked up her face, but AI has made it worse. But then there was this one here. These are two basketball players for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they are going home. But this was from yesterday, the day before they left. And there's a bunch of these. So these are just the memes. So there's another 10 memes. I scrolled through Facebook for about 5 minutes. There was 10 more memes, this kind of memes, where AI had generated the meme. So people are using AI to do more sophisticated memes and things that they couldn't do. Like, most people couldn't do this on Photoshop, right? Because these guys are, they took these guys' faces and they didn't even do that. Like on Photoshop, you would have had to take a picture of a couple of Home Depot workers and change them into this, where AI can just do it from scratch, right? So, if someone has this idea and they just do it. AI just puts it together. But then there are the video clips here. Okay, so, I send a lot of, I watch a lot of animal videos. So I get a lot of these. Maybe you get something else, right? And real animal videos. And there's lots of them. There's lots of cool animal videos. People have interactions like a killer whale an orca going under somebody's kayak, or, them having interactions with it, and these things. And so they started putting out these really fake ones. So this one's got scorpions on it, this little deer, right? And then he stops a guy with a Tesla truck, a Ranger, jumps up on his truck. Very fake, right? These are very fake. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because they weirdly copyright it, but it ends up getting the guy out of the truck and bothering the guy. And again, this is all generated by AI. There's no actors, there's no anything in there. Now, a lot of these are really fake, and I think they're meant to be fake. But they're starting to replace my animal videos, and I'm wondering how many of the animal videos are now just AI creating something. That isn't. It's like these are over the top goofy. So it brings the guy back. The guy runs back with the deer here. See if I can show you him running. See, he runs funny. Like that's the one problem. You notice that they run funny, almost mechanically. And I don't know how sophisticated these things are, right? But there's certainly tells right now that something's fake. You can tell and these are obviously fake, the ones I'm going to show you. But it isn't that long before they're more realistic. And then they can replace all the videos. You're thinking you're watching something natural, something that somebody had an experience and shot and made the video, and especially the animal things, where the AI just generates fake, I mean, you could kill all the animals and AI would just remember all the, you wouldn't go to the zoo, you would just, or go on safari or something, you would just go, or go for a nature walk. They just show you the experience you'd have visually in virtual reality. And then that would be it, because there's nothing left. Of course, they don't need so many people now because AI can do all the work. And that's the other thing. They can have massive population reduction. When they say that 20% of white collar jobs in the next 5 years. And it could be even more than that. I don't think they can even estimate it, right? And it's nothing anybody can do to stop it because people are going to use AI because it's kind of awesome, in terms of what it does for you. If you're asking for answers, it gives you them. It does massive, and that's just the search part, all the other things, right? Like somebody who just had an idea. This guy's going to clean off the scorpions, and that's there's a lot of things where people are saving animals, which is silly. But so here, there's always shitty music to go with it. The kid falls into an enclosure at the zoo, and the polar bear and the kids start hanging out. So and these were just for a 5-minute session on Facebook. So I had probably 10 to 20 memes, just straight up memes that were generated by AI, like picture memes, and then probably another 10 videos from 5 minutes on Facebook. So it's just everything's AI. The other thing is Facebook is like everything's ads now. Like I'd have to click. You can click on, your friend feed, which is just your friends. Nobody posts shit on Facebook anymore. It's the same people posting the same bullshit. Like Facebook is dead. And, there's just some people post a lot and pretty much everyone else doesn't post anymore. There's just these empty posts that don't have any likes or don't have anything like that. I did read a post yesterday when I was scrolling through from a former truther that was always getting banned. And this person took their kid to Mission Impossible, whatever, the new one, and said it was abhorrent. I want to talk about, I don't know if I'm going to do it today. I'm going to probably do it today, too. I watched Captain America, and it is fucking horrible. Brave New World. At first it was New World Order, but they changed it. And then they changed it to Captain America, Brave New World. And there's nothing brave about it. It is the Marvel movies just get worse and worse. But I'm talking just straight up production values. And I'll show some clips from it. It's laughable. You can see a good movie, in the first minute or so, you can see like a good movie, even if it's not going to be uplifting. It's a well-made, well-crafted movie. Like you can see within minutes. And the bad ones, it's so much easier. It just pops from the first scene. I'm like, did they run out of money in Marvel? Like, they spent a lot of money, like $400 million to make this piece of shit. And it is bad. The acting is atrocious. The dialogue is mechanical. The fight scenes and everything are ridiculously bad. It's amazing it made, like, it broke even. Because it's a fucking bad movie. Marvel is just tanked. And then all the, they do have a lot of their woke shit they put in there. But that's not even that's like the fifth worst thing about it. But I'll pull some more clips from that. I pulled some last night after I realized how bad it was. I want to talk about it. And I'll show you that, after I'm done with the Trump stuff, and then I'll get into the comments. But it is fucking atrocious, right? You can see here, not wow, not gorgeous, not excellent, just another piece of AI bullshit. But, it isn't. These things are, goofy. And I think they're meant to be goofy. But they're going to be things that you won't be able to tell the difference. And, these are a lot of amateurs, and they're just developing the tools to make these videos. But they're going to be realistic at some point. And there's probably ones that pass as realistic, right? This thing with Mission Impossible, the comment was that the script was bad and the acting was atrocious. Who knows what they're even doing if they're trying to do AI generated things. They might start off bad. I don't know if the Mission Impossible, I haven't seen the movie, but when I get around to seeing it, whenever it comes out on whatever it is, I'll know more and I'll hopefully remember to see if, But there's this one too. There's a few with alligators that were on there. There's 3 where alligators were attacking somebody's dog, or if this is a lion. And, very fake the way it jumps out and, these things. But, it's happening. Like people say, oh, wow, that's so fake. Yeah, but, how long before it's not? And who knows if this is just the lower end that people have available to them. There's always going to there'll be the paid services and the real, there'll be whatever it is. Okay, so that's the AI. I'm very much focused on this as being, death by a million cuts, but also, technology. The technology, we know that Wi-Fi and the electromagnetic electromagnetic frequencies are disruptive to the subtle bodies and to your glandular system in your body, your physical body. And there's that. Like, it's not, it doesn't kill you right away, but it makes you less than. And then just being on the internet, time on screens, the video games and all the stuff, the porn, all the degraded stuff, all the, the cyber life, kids having all this stuff. And now AI is another level, and not just taking your jobs, but taking your abilities, right? Making you, or you giving up things that you should be doing for yourself, and AI and robots doing it for you, and then what becomes of people? Like, you're no longer living any sort of a natural life at all. Already that happened when our ancestors left the farm. People were designed to live a certain way. And so, people are craving to be outside and do more farming type things and things like that. Like, that's the antidote to what's happening. So it's kind of a battle between your, the health in your system that wants you to go and do more and be more, and then the technology that's taking that away that makes it that you don't have to. Anyways, let's get into the Trump thing here. Okay, so a big part of this video, I forget what I was watching last night. I was watching CNN briefly, and it was maybe about his getting the plane, or it was about the crypto stuff. It was about his failed crypto, whatever. It wasn't failed, but it was goofy. He made his bank. He made money on it. And how it was clearly just wrong and inappropriate. But, there was this thing that happened years ago. I've talked about it quite often, where Bill Clinton got caught banging an intern who was 18 years old, Monica Lewinsky. Weird sexual stuff that was happening, involved in cigars and things. And then lied about it and kept his job. And, it showed a degradation of morality that Americans and the Democratic Party didn't just say, hey, you got to leave. The Democrat should have said, you got to go, you got to resign. What you did is just not something that you can keep your job. And he kept his job. And he just said no. Like, it's that Matrix scene where the Smith character in the second Matrix movie says, when he was killed by Neo in the end of the first movie, the Smith agent program. And he said, I knew what I was supposed to do, I just didn't do it. He just refused to die. Because he was supposed to die because of what happened, but he didn't. And then he became this, anomaly in the Matrix, where he wasn't controlled by the Matrix anymore. He'd gone rogue, right? So, but you have that where that happened with Clinton, and then Trump certainly picked up on it. There's a lot of, George W. Bush was started to use the executive orders in new ways. Dick Cheney had him do this, right? And so there was a lot of fuck you going on, like just things that were, there's etiquette and decorum, and there's, the way people are supposed to behave. And, Trump doesn't believe in any of that, which is good in a way. It's something I liked during his first term. But then it becomes, well, what's going to stop him, right? Like, Trump is like a child who's pushing limits, but a child who has all kinds of powers. It's like a superhero child who can kill his parents, and the parents can't put limits on him, can't discipline him, unless the child submits to some parental authority. Then he can do whatever he wants. Like, you can't. There's that Brightburn movie I saw recently. It's like it was like a Superman with the kid turning into actually like a villain from outer space instead of a hero to rescue people. But this kind of thing, right? So, so this is what a lot of this has been about, where Trump is like, he doesn't care about how things look. And it's kind of funny and interesting in a way, but it's, now it's become, well, he's going to destroy the country. Like, he's allowing courts to set limits on him, but for how long? Like, there's a court ruling today about his tariffs. Has this big, beautiful bill. And so a lot of this is about Trump just doing whatever he wants and not caring. They shut off the media, which is a good thing, but the media, is actually telling the truth now, where Trump is lying. The media doesn't have to make things up because Trump's doing exactly what they said, but the media can't do anything. The Democrats can't do anything. Eventually they'll take over the House and the Senate, and there'll be some power struggles, in 2 years, but for this period of time, Trump's just doing whatever he wants, right? So some of this is just about that, AI is a similar story where AI, becomes sentient and just realizes that people have to go. Like that's the scary, apocalyptic science fiction movies that they make. But AI could take over without ever being adversarial towards people. AI worse as an enemy or is it worse as a friend? Right? I mean, that's the thing that people need to ask: is AI worse as an enemy or is it worse as a friend? As an enemy, people then have to, go all, whatever that guy's name was, in the Terminator hero, right? The John Connor is his name, I think. He has to go all John Connor, and people have to, fight the AI robots, and all that stuff, or even in the Matrix. But if AI is your friend, then what happens? Well, the Matrix before there's a rebellion, right? The AI making the Matrix and preying off you like batteries, and so the idea that AI being your friend and not saying, oh, we gotta get rid of people, and just being there, taking away people's abilities because people don't need them anymore because robots and AI are doing everything. So, this is all about that kind of stuff, right? When the things that can't be stopped and people don't want them to be stopped, they complain, they hem and haw, they say this is leading us over the cliff, but fuck it, we're going to enjoy it anyway, and this going with it. And so, Trump is just doing all kinds of things, and they were asking on CNN why isn't this more of a story? Because Trump's going to do something in 2 days, right? But in that, the end of civilization was already hinted at. So I have a couple of, I think maybe something from Trump, but definitely something from Elon Musk. Elon Musk talks about here's the meme. I'll show you the meme in a second. But I just want to give some, some context. And so Elon Musk gave us some information. So we could see from the national debt clock, which I'll show in a moment, that we have $5 trillion in tax revenue. Now, Trump's big, beautiful bill, it'll be less because Trump's going to make all these tax cuts permanent. He wants to cut corporate tax and for wealthy tax cuts, also things like Social Security, of course, with tips. And so there'll be less tax revenue. It'll go back under $5 trillion. And our budget is $7 trillion, not counting the unfunded liabilities, which the Europeans count the unfunded liabilities. I'll get into that. But what we're spending now is $7 trillion plus another $1 trillion in interest that we're accumulating. And so that's our budget and the unfunded liabilities and things that aren't a part of there's things that are not a part of the budget that we have to, bailouts and things that they did before. And so Elon Musk said that this is unsustainable, that this is, we're on the verge of going bankrupt, and that he would have to get he was going for $2 trillion at first. Then they were going for $1 trillion, and then they didn't get dick. They basically got nothing. Doge did nothing. And now he's quit. So we'll show you all that stuff. But let's show you his first. The first is the meme thing here.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'd like to stack them up, But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, there's got a lot of wood up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget.
So he says a lot there. Like, we're going to go bankrupt if we don't do this, and he's now quit, and they're not doing it, and now they have a big, beautiful bill that's going to add more to the deficit. That's loaded, $3 trillion. And it's going to reduce the amount of revenue, the tax revenue, because it's a lot of tax cuts. And who knows how that gets passed or not, but it doesn't matter, because he's admitting that we're on the path to bankruptcy, but in reality, we've already gone bankrupt. We're insolvent. We can never pay off the debt. In fact, we can never pay off a little bit of it. They'll never have a situation where we have a surplus and we're, because he's saying that we have a $7 trillion budget and we have a $5 trillion amount of income. So, and then there's another $1 trillion in interest. So we're spending $7 trillion and another $1 trillion in interest, and so we're just going to keep on being upside down. We're never even going to get close to paying off some of the deficit, even for 1 year, and even with that $1 trillion in Doge cuts that never happened, it wouldn't it still wouldn't be able to do anything. It's not going to put a dent in it. We'd still be going the wrong way. And so he's admitting here, and looking at the numbers, as the richest man in the world, as according to some, and a successful businessman, that we're bankrupt, right? We're already fucked. And so then Trump said this thing about World War III. I'll put that here. And so, they're openly talking about bankruptcy, economic collapse, and World War III. I mean, when was that something that was talked about? This was talked about during the campaign, Joe Biden saving the soul of America. So now the collapse of America is being verbalized in various scenarios. The worry about AI collapse. There are these things that are in place that people are saying, important people, like not just important people, but people who are not supposed to say, these people are supposed to say America is strong. Nothing to worry about. We're nothing to see here, folks. We're strong. America is strong. There's no threat of collapse. But they're openly talking about the apocalypse all the fucking time. So here's Trump talking about World War III.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
This is openly being discussed, and it's even more prevalent now. And I'll probably show that meme again when I cover. It's already building up. Trump's threatening Putin and this whole relationship going south. Now, Trump is realizing he was getting played by Netanyahu that nobody talked about in terms of the mainstream media, and Putin, who everybody talked about, that these guys have been working him, and now he's getting pissed at both of them because they're taking advantage of him, right? He finally realizes he's getting worked, them buttering him up and saying all these things. He's like, Netanyahu's on the outs, but he doesn't give a shit because he's showing Trump that Trump has no power over him. And Putin is just pushing limits the way Trump does, and Trump doesn't know what to do. So we'll cover that in my next video. But that's World War III right there, two potential World War IIIs. So this is what happened here.
It's now official. Elon Musk is leaving his role as a special government employee in the Trump administration, with a White House official confirming to me tonight that he's going to start the offboarding process this evening, which essentially includes paperwork. It's not totally clear what else. But we did see Musk post
Offboarding.
this on his own website, saying, as my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I'd like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The Doge mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout government.
Yeah, that's just gone. The Doge thing's gone. Like the Doge thing was Elon. So it is a failure. Doge is a complete failure. It did nothing. And even if it got $1 trillion, it wouldn't have done anything. We would still be in an upside down situation, right? And so we should all know that this is an admission, because Elon Musk said, I've looked at the numbers. If we don't do something like right now, we're going to be bankrupt. We're already bankrupt, but he said that, right? Like that was sugarcoating it. And they didn't do anything. So, and now they're adding the big, beautiful bill, which Elon Musk is going to criticize here in a second. And so we now know that they're admitting we're bankrupt. They're admitting everything that I've been saying, other people have been saying, that there's many ways for our civilization to collapse. The number one way is people's immorality, people's weakness of character, people, the product of the the civilization being, the system being people, is the people are shitty and this going the wrong direction and getting worse. And that's happened, that ship has already sailed. So that we can't reverse ourselves from our addictions, our weaknesses, our entitlements, and just who we are, selfishness. We're not getting better. So along with that is the debt, like the economic system being a usury system, and it's now it's just so ridiculous. And they're talking about this globally. The national debt is a part of the conversation. Finally, it was something no one talked about because they didn't want you to realize we're fucked, and they didn't want to admit that we're fucked. So now there's the debt. Like it's just, your lifestyle's gone. And then what that's going to do globally, when America is the big customer, America is this giant rich customer that no longer has any money, who's broke, then what happens to the world economy? And so then China taking over all those things, right? And then World War III. So these are the things that they're talking about, just those things. Of course, AI, it's, even something probably more nefarious. So you have all these things, and they're just openly admitting you're fucked. And people won't do anything about it because they can't. Like, what are you going to do? But what are you going to do? I don't know. I guess I'll party like it's 1999,
This is all coming as Musk has recently tried to distance himself from the administration to a degree, including when he criticized the president's big, beautiful bill, something the president was asked about today and essentially shrugged off.
Well, reactions, a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a
Is that Janine Pereiro? Pereiro?
lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill.
It's the big, beautiful bill.
But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have.
Here's what Elon Musk had to say about that bill, which the Congressional Budget Office has estimated would add more than $3 trillion to the federal deficit.
$5 trillion if it becomes permanent.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
So fucking weird.
My source on all of this tonight is the veteran tech journalist, Kara Swisher. And Kara, it's great to have you here. What do you make of Elon Musk?
So we're going to get back to that piece with the CNN thing. But here we are at almost $37 trillion. It's going to reach 40. And, there used to be down here unfunded liabilities, right? This is, what does this thing say here? I don't know where they put it. And so they put a Doge thing up here somewhere, which is doing nothing. I don't know where that is either. And maybe it's gone. I don't know. But if I see the Doge thing, this will be whatever. But the Europeans, when they look at U.S. debt, they include the unfunded liabilities. And two of the big ones are Social Security and Medicaid. Social Security is something like $25 trillion. So, almost 2/3 of this right here. And Medicaid and Medicare are like $36 or $40 trillion, something like that. But the total unfunded liabilities, here it is right here. The U.S. national debt, including unfunded liabilities, is estimated to be a staggering $120 trillion. So that's the AI overview. This figure encompasses both the explicit debt of $36.2 trillion, which is now almost 37, and the implicit debt of unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicare. The current national debt is around 36.2. No, it's not. It is almost 37 because, it's happening in real time. But so the unfunded liabilities is something that's not even making the clock anymore. I don't know if they did that because of Doge, right? But you have this here, right? Here's the Doge clock right here. And so they're saying it's 486 billion. And so that's $500 billion. But it's really not anything. Like, it's just this thing's, it's meaningless, right? So this is doing this. Like, this is actually going up. And this is still not stopping anything, right? It's not even slowing it down. And so Doge is a complete failure. This is your revenue, which is $5 trillion. That's going to go down with the big, beautiful bill. But even if it went up to $10 trillion, the only thing that can save the debt is hyperinflation. Where $36 trillion isn't $40 trillion isn't $40 trillion. And that we have so much inflation that the dollar's devalued. And so the tax revenue goes up to $20 trillion because, that money is just devalued. But then, everything's going to be 4 times, 5 times as much. And so and the economy will shut down that way. So there's no fucking way out, right? This is the total debt here, and this has nothing to do with, this isn't the unfunded liabilities. And so, they've taken the unfunded liabilities off, maybe because this is leaning towards the Republican aspect of it. But like I said, other countries include the unfunded liabilities. And the big thing here is derivatives market is the defense war thing is there. No, here it is, Medicare, Social Security. So they have this, but they don't have the total unfunded liabilities. They have Medicare and Social Security, but this is not what they used to have the projections for that, right? The things that need to be paid for. So they're going to have to get rid of Medicare and Social Security because we can't pay for it. And they're not even a part of the fucking budget, right? And there is the credit default swaps down here, which is in black. But that is, this is derivatives market. And that's almost $2 quadrillion. That's 3/4 of $2 quadrillion, which is fucking crazy. That's all the bullshit. This is more than all of this combined. $728 trillion is more than all these numbers combined of debt and assets and everything else. That's how bad the derivatives market is. These guys who are, speculating and doing credit default swaps and, shorting things, the whole stock market bullshit and all the stuff that involves. And so you have this massive amount of debt that they can't get rid of because debt has become wealth. That's what this is. Our currency is actually debt. It's an IOU. And then everything else is, betting against people's loans and shorting stocks and doing things like that, which are, it's just a financial gambling. And this has made everything insolvent. People like Max Kaiser, who's a big Bitcoin guy and a sort of a truther economist, he's been saying this for years that the government, this is insolvent. Like we can't, and that's most people who look at this understand we're never going to pay this off. We're never going to pay this off. And we're never going to pay the unfunded liabilities off. And so they're going to have to rearrange everything about our economy. They're going to have to reboot it. And when they reboot it, your lifestyle is going to be fucked, right? And so Elon Musk admitted to this. It's been something I've talked about when it was $14 trillion. Because, we're not in a situation where we're going to make a surplus, that there'll be more tax revenue than there'll be debt. Then our bills will always exceed our revenue. And if you're in a personal economic situation where you're making, let's call it $500, and your bill, it's not $500 a year, right? And or let's call it $5,000 a year, and your bills are $37,000. So you're only making $5,000 a year, but your bills are $37,000. But then you have hidden bills and hidden costs that are $120,000 a year, and you're like, I'm only making $5,000. I got to go bankrupt, and you're not capable of making anything more than that. You've maxed out your potential, your earning potential, and so this is what the government and the American economy is going through. And so, it's insolvent. There's nothing that can be done. So with all these people, you have to read between the lines. With Elon Musk, what did he do? Well, he said, we're on the path to bankruptcy. If we don't do something soon, we're going to go bankrupt. And, his projection of what he could cut from the governmental budget, it's in the billions, and I think a lot of it's just fake. A lot of it is cuts that aren't going to stick, cuts that are in dispute, and there'll be other expenses coming in. So, it's fake cuts. And, he's gone, so that's over with. That was just for show. And so he openly talked about bankruptcy and that the only thing stopping it was Doge, and they had to do something, and now that something hasn't been done. So, if so, fact so, right? See, if so, fact so, then we're fucked, right? He's admitting we're fucked because he's quitting, and he's going under. He's not leaving on good terms. Let's get into this thing with this person here. This is Kara Swisher.
Officially leaving his role that he is tonight.
Wow, it's a long goodbye, isn't it? He seems to be leaving and going out. He needs to work on his company. This was inevitable that he was not going to stay there very long. And it pushed along by the fact that his businesses are a bit in distress. And And so he needs to pay attention and do his actual job.
Do you think he's actually leaving?
I think he's probably frustrated by the pace of government. And when he goes back to his companies, he says jump and they say how high. At the government, they don't do that. And I think he found a lot more difficulty in finding real cuts and everything else. And I think they're only sending $9 billion in Doge cuts which is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket, which means pretty much his effort was a failure.
Yeah.
Well, so there's whatever is set on the world debt clock, close to 500 billion, but she's saying 9 billion, whatever. But it was obviously a failure, and most of it was performative. It was performing for Trump's base. He was performing for MAGA people, and that's going to wear thin when inflation goes up, which is going to inevitably go up, right? Because we're still talking about the tariffs and what that's going to do, and inflation's still a part of all this, right?
That's what they're planning to send up to the Hill based on what we know so far. But I mean, $9 billion might sound like a ton of money to someone who's watching, but when you think about his stated goal of $1 trillion to cut coming in,
$2 trillion at first,
$2 trillion initially, then that was halved to be more realistic.
Yeah,
I think that puts it more in perspective of how much there was this high bar that they did not reach.
So if he said we can do $1 trillion, but we need more, like what I said was, what they have to do is get the budget down to $3 trillion a year. When we pay $1 trillion of interest and $1 trillion on a deficit every year, and within 40 years of that kind of, strict governmental spending, that's getting rid of Social Security, Medicaid. I mean, you can't fucking do it, right? You would need to cut the budget down to $3 trillion from $7 trillion, and then all the money that's governmental money that goes out there and it goes into contracts and businesses and all these other things. I mean, some of it goes into people's pockets, and there's that stuff. You'd have to get rid of all the corruption. So it was doomed to failure. So you guys all know now, with him quitting and him and Doge failing, by Elon's own estimation, we're going bankrupt, which means we already are. Because there was never a chance of him doing anything significant. Like, his goal was $2 trillion, and that wasn't going to be enough. Like that would have just... $2 trillion would have meant that we're still paying $1 trillion of extra interest. So that's cutting the budget down to $5 trillion, which is what our income tax revenue is. But that's not including the unfunded liabilities. It's not including the $1 trillion in interest. So we'd still be in a deficit. It would just slow down. The amount of deficit would slow down. But he didn't have the ability for $2 trillion. He didn't have the ability for $1 trillion. And now it's $9 billion. Like, that's nothing. Like, they made some cuts, and a lot of these things are still in dispute, right? From governmental, they've gone to the courts. So, it's so fucked. We're so fucked, right? And nobody's going to get rid of their governmental handouts, including him. He got massive amounts of governmental loans for his company. So, I mean, there's all these people who are sucking off the government teat, and they couldn't get rid of any of it because no one wants to give that shit up. And so it was all a mess, right? And he, all the damage he did to his own business, and he's leaving. And it's, other than for Trumpers who will be like, oh, they wouldn't let him do it or whatever bullshit reason they come up with it doesn't matter. It means we're fucked, right? When Trump had the Congress and the Senate, and he had a lot of momentum, and he brought in Elon Musk, and, who was a very popular figure, especially among liberals, and to do some sort of, economic turnaround, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't fucking do it. Leaving as a failure, and this thing's done. And, by his own admission, bankruptcy is the consequence.
No, it's what they spent on paper clips. I mean, it's really not a lot. And he didn't find it. He was able to do it because he made cuts in particular areas, some of which were regulating him, like foreign budgets, maybe attack NPR, attack things like that. But it wasn't significant cutting that they were talking about, which is reforming government extensively. And as he correctly pointed out, you can't have a bill that's big and beautiful. You can have one or the other. And, Musk can do math, I think, and he understands the deficit. This $2.3 billion or more raising the deficit is very dangerous for this country, which was something I think he genuinely wanted to help fix.
Did the president...
$2.4 billion? No, it's $3 trillion. Deficit every year. It's $3 trillion. I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but it's $3 trillion a year. Like, that's the problem.
Response when he was asked about Elon Musk saying, it can be big or it can be beautiful, it can't be both, which he said with a laugh there, but I do think is a point that he actually probably believes. Were you surprised that Trump didn't have a stronger response to that?
No, because he was just saying, yeah, that's the way it goes here up in there. Like, I think he was acknowledging that this is how it happens, this is how the sausage is made. And I think Elon thought, because the way he runs his own companies, that he could just come in and trample everybody. And I think that was one of the problems. I think he bullied cabinet members. I think he ran over things. He took a lion's share of the attention, the whole chainsaw thing, which is, thank God, a distant memory. And I think he did a lot more showmanship than he did actual work.
I thought what he said to the Washington Post in an interview was interesting. He said, Doge has just become the whipping boy for everything. Something would go bad, something bad would happen anywhere, and we would get blamed for it even though we had nothing to do with it.
Oh, woe is me. So that's what, when you're on the big leagues, that's what happens. You have to take blame. And he attracted attention.
So, this should be terrifying to people, because this was the first time we've had something like this. If you want to give them credit, Trump and Elon Musk, they were literally trying to do something about the deficit. It's been ignored through Trump's last presidency, through Biden's presidency, through Obama's presidency. What if they talked about the deficit? They did a little bit under Clinton, and I think they were making progress. There were some years that the deficit was erased, or at least it was slowed down substantially by the tech bubble. Like, there was a lot of revenue or whatever it was, right? And I'm not sure. Like, I don't know when the last time that the deficit was, we were paying down on the deficit, like it was being reduced. And so I'll just ask the AI thing. Okay, so the U.S. had a surplus in 2001. And I think some years before that, I think some of the things with Herbert Walker Bush and some years with Clinton. So 2001, right before the 9/11 expenditures, remember 2002, we would go into our national debt was $6 trillion in 2002. Remember, they just stole like $9 trillion at the Pentagon. Donald Rumsfeld went before the Congress and was questioned by Cynthia McKinnon about losing $9 trillion like out of the budget. It was gone or whatever it was. Something crazy. Maybe it was billions. It was something. And that was on September 10th, and then 9/11 happened the next day, and nobody, thought about it after that. But in 2002, the national debt was $6 trillion. So it wasn't so bad. That's a lot, but it's not like $40 trillion. So you think about in 20 years, it's grown to $40 trillion. And think about it, like it's, it's not just doubled, right? So what is that? It's gone up by 6%. And you think about that, 2001 was an epic time. It's when the truth community was born. It was when what happened, 9/11 happened, and then all the wars. And since then, the deficit has gone up by six times, 600%. And so it's actually six. When I did the calculations, 6 into 40, it's 6. So, that's interesting as well. And so, now we're completely fucked because $1 trillion of interest, we can't even do that. And then Social Security, all these things. And they knew back then we were insolvent, so they started looting. That's what this is about, like looting American wealth, moving American wealth all over the world, getting China as a replacement, all these things. Reframing the economic framework, having America go down as the empire collapsing, and then all the things that go with it, right? So, this is an indication that this can't be done. Like, this is the first time in all that time there was a special group, special governmental agency created just to reduce the deficit and government waste and spending. And it's failed epically. Like, it's going out at a time where Trump is releasing a bill that's going to increase the deficit by $3 trillion. Adding along with the other things that are going on, because it's really $5 trillion if it becomes permanent in the next so many years. So on top of the already increasing, we're increasing it every year $3 trillion. You add another $5 trillion, and there'll probably be bailouts coming and other bullshit, things that aren't a part of the big, beautiful bill. And so it's fucked. We're like completely fucked. The economy's fucked. The people are messed up and are under functioning. Idiocracy is set in. Like all the signs of a collapse is there, right?
To himself, so he has no one to blame but himself in that regard. I mean, he wanted the attention, he wanted the power, he showed up in cabinet meetings, and then he was mad that people didn't agree with him, and then started to complain about him, either on the record or off.
You know, they started to burn Teslas. He talked about being a victim. You saw in that one clip about all the death threats. He was constantly talking about the death threats and the other things, and Trump's fake assassination attempt. I mean, he's really playing the victim. Like he whined all the time, and that whining meant that it wasn't going well, right? Him complaining meant that it wasn't going to work.
Record. So he's whiny like that in lots of ways. Everyone's out to get him, whether it's Sam Altman or people who don't like Teslas or Elizabeth Warren. It doesn't matter. He's always got some victimization thing going on.
Did it stand out to you that he wasn't wearing the typical hat that he's been donning in a lot of the cabinet meetings, the MAGA hat or anything about Trump?
No.
And instead he's wearing the shirt.
Occupy Mars. He wears that a lot. That's actually something he wears a lot. No, I think
totally yes. If he was going out, like his last interview, if he's done with MAGA. I mean, like this, it's a divorce, right? It's a failure. You don't celebrate failure. And so Trump has got, he was brought in by Trump to supposedly reduce the deficit, and then Trump drops a fucking major bill that's going to increase the deficit when, his thing isn't working. He was taking all the strays. I mean, he was being used as a shield for Trump. People were more upset about Elon. Remember, they're talking about how Elon's the real president, and they were blaming Elon for everything. His companies took a fucking absolute beating. This is the toxicity of Trump. Like all Trump's friends, all the people that get close to him, they end up fucking getting, I mean, they get taken down instead of going up. Trump doesn't uplift people. He takes people down. He takes companies down. People who have association with Trump fucking suffer. He's not like a cash cow. He's like he's a reverse Midas. He turns everything to shit, right? And so, like, this is all, of course he's not wearing a MAGA hat. Like, he's not going out on fucking good terms, despite what they're saying, because, he's not, he's lost his enthusiasm. Jumping around like a fucking baboon on the stage, an uncoordinated, nerdy baboon, jumping up and down and being all excited, wearing MAGA stuff, wearing the black MAGA hat, wearing two MAGA hats at the meeting, the ones that Trump was pimping out at the cabinet meeting. He had to forget what they said, but there was two different Trump hats, and Elon was wearing both of them when it came to his turn. Like his performative bullshit and his goofy humor, his just being a weird fuck, all that stuff. And now he's not wearing a MAGA hat. Of course he's not wearing a MAGA hat. He's tucking his tail between his legs and going back to fucking Tesla as a complete failure. And now Trump has to find somebody else to take the beating that he's going to receive now from all the fucking bad shit that the consequences of his bad shit that he's doing, right? Trump was never about, he does this all the time. He'll do the same thing to Kennedy, right? Like he'll get Kennedy thinking that they're going to make America healthy again. The Maha movement, make America healthy again. And they're going to, and there's lots of liberals involved with that. And they all think they're going to get rid of these trans fats and these other things. And then Trump will make some big deal with Pfizer or some other bullshit thing that he's doing. He's going to, we'll see what Trump does. Like, he has all these people he's brought in with their own agendas, and Trump embraces their agenda for a little bit, and then somebody else on the other side pays him off, like Big Pharma or Big Food, and Kennedy will be fucking holding his dick in his hand the same way as, walking out like a fucking...
He'll still be around. I think they'll still want him for the money. There's very few people who can write a check that big for particular things. There's a lot of rich people, possibly a lot of easier to deal with rich people, I guess. But there's no one who who really would bet that much, make that much of a bet like Elon does. And that is one attribute he has. His ability to take risks is higher than most people.
Yeah, and it's not like he's totally gone from Trump's orbit. I mean, He was just in the Oval Office when the South African leader was there.
Sure
yeah, Trump gave him a shout out. Nobody saw him. And that thing fucking went disastrously. And he was in there for another reason. He was coming to visit Trump. I mean, remember he brought his kid in. His kid was wiping boogers all over him. Fucking gross. It was like, and it was like his kid didn't even know who he was. He's got like 5 baby mamas in a giant mansion somewhere, and they all are raising his kids there, and he barely gets to see them. And he wants to be a dad because he thinks he's got to repopulate the earth with his weird fucking genetics. I mean, it's so fucked up, right? Like, these are the people that are out there that are supposed to be saving a system that can't be saved.
It's had a huge influence on how that went down.
Clearly, absolutely. I think he'll be able to call Trump up, but I suspect they found him a bit of a nuisance. That's what I understand from people there.
You mentioned his other.
Of course he was. He's weird as fuck. And, he was like Trump, but he was richer than Trump, where he was a celebrity. And like he could do whatever he wants at his company and everybody kiss his ass, right? That's why it's better to be a CEO than it is to be president, because you have lots of money. And it's money that's, and you have all these things that are done for you. You don't have to pay for your own private jets. It's all company shit, right? And, your company does well, which is a lot easier to make a company profitable than erase the deficit of a dying country, a dying empire. And your company can be global, which Tesla is. So if America shits the bed, which it is, you just move to another country. And even, you can build your bunkers and you have your reserves, whatever. Like you can have, whatever the thing is, and without anything to do with the government, where you make no money as a president, where you get like $500,000 or something, or it's less than that. And so a year, which is nothing compared to what these guys are making. And, hey, Mr. Trump. Oh, hey, Mr. Musk, right? Anything you say, Mr. Musk. Anything you say, Mr. Trump. But then they get into government, people are like, hey, fuck you. You're trying to steal my job? Like, people don't fucking give a shit because you can't fire them like that, right? They don't go along with these all people that are running their own things, right? These department heads. And Elon Musk is just fucking weird. And he came in with this fake enthusiasm for something that was going to fail. I knew it was going to fail because I knew you couldn't you couldn't balance the budget. It's something you can't balance anymore. And he admitted to it the first day and then fucking went on a failure tour. And, it was annoying as fuck the whole way. And then they realized he was a liability, that whenever Elon Musk showed up politically, that he raised so much opposition and so much hatred from the Democrats that they were losing, that thing that happened in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, right? So all of that, right? It's just like it's a failure. And they're like, get rid of this annoying fuck, right?
Companies. And today we saw a group of Tesla investors send a letter to him urging him to commit to at least 40 hours a week running the company, saying his outside endeavors appear to have diverted his time and attention from actively managing Tesla's operation, as any other chief executive officer or publicly traded company would be expected to do.
Correct. I know. That's the thing, is can we please have 40 hours of your week, which is kind of ridiculous. And Tesla's really got some real challenges going forward, including finding a car that people want to buy. And the original car is amazing, but you don't rely on a single car. You have to continue to innovate.
Those trucks are a fucking abomination. Those cyber trucks, they're fucking, they're so, like my wife and I joke about how there's a show called Blade Runner, this movie, not Blade Runner, Logan's Run. And there was these, cars in these movies, and it's what they thought these cars of the future were going to look like, right? And before, not flying cars, but things like this. It's like when Elon Musk was a kid, if he drew a picture of a future car of the future, it would be the Cybertruck. It is gaudy and big, and it's not, I don't even know what the problem with all these electric vehicles is they don't go very far because, they have to be recharged, and it takes a longer time to recharge them. And so, people complain about that shit all the time, right? And so, but they can go faster because they don't have a transmission, they don't have a cooling system, they don't have the same things as a regular car, right? A regular car has all the problems with a combustion engine that makes something turn, where with a battery-powered, electrical-powered car, you can have a motor in there that just turns from electricity. So you can get rid of a lot of shit that's in a regular car, but they have to put these massive batteries in there, and even then, then they become so heavy, and it's just whatever. But like, there's all these people now that are in this market that Elon Musk created, and they're making cheaper cars and more inventive cars. And Elon Musk is focusing on Starlink and Doge and shit like that. And so, like, even his Tesla thing is going south because of that. Like, his company's, but the whole thing's a mess, right?
And he's dropped the ball there, and others have taken it up. And now he's in a real jam, actually.
Yeah, he seemed to acknowledge that himself, that he spent maybe too much time on politics recently, saying he did blame the media a bit, said the media is going to overrepresent any political stuff. He said, it's not like I left the companies. It was just relative time allocation that probably was a little too high on the government side.
Oh my God, he was tweeting every 5 minutes all about politics. Come on, he always blames other people. Look at his Twitter storm that he used to have all the time. Now he's tweeting about his businesses mostly, but he spent all his time in a look at me situation. Here I am in the front row of the inauguration. Here I am jumping up and down on a stage. Here I am in the cabinet meeting. He has no one to blame but himself on the problems at Tesla. And the fact that competition exists, and that's what's happened here.
Well, and on
it's a Trump effect.
I think some people may hear this and say, well, he was trying to do good. He was trying to find fraud in the federal government. But I was listening to Steve Bannon last week, and he was essentially saying, Republicans are trying to cut whatever they can from Medicaid for this bill. They're getting blamed by Democrats. He's like, where is Doge? They were supposed to go after that or go after the Pentagon budget. Instead, they went after smaller projects that didn't net, the huge fraud people were expecting.
I think he's right. It was a lot of jazz hands, and exhausting jazz.
The thing is that it couldn't be done. There's lots of government waste, but, remember there was all these tweets about they're finding all this stuff. Remember that was like the good part of Doge. They're finding it. Oh, all these people collected benefits that are dead, like Social Security. Like they were saying, finding all these things. And they were like, oh my God, we got this thing, all these, these governmental programs overseas to sponsor some, trans thing or something overseas, a play or something, right? And they were being tweeted out, and the fake Barbie truther, Caroline Levitt, was saying shit, and other people. And it went around the Republican Twitter sphere and how great it was doing. Like all these things. Oh my God, look at this waste here. And they were showing charts of waste and things that people were doing and reading about. And then in reality, it's, they get nothing. Like $9 trillion is fucking nothing. And they probably bullied some things that actually some people like, that have a purpose. And so what our situation is that we are a country that has become so, it's like really rich people's kids, second generation wealth, or, the wealth of these people who are, lords and things. They run out of money because their lifestyle becomes more and more, more and more opulent. Their lifestyle becomes more and more like, hedonistic, and just they keep on adding to their budget, but they don't have any ways of making income. Like this is the whole lordship. Like if you see the Downton Abbey, there was a period of time where all these lords were selling their castles because they didn't have any money. There was no longer, the feudal system no longer worked, and the ones that couldn't pivot and find a way to bring in an income stream. And so they ended up marrying really rich people. Then you have these people who were making like bank, like nouveau riche people, and they started to marry into British royalty and royal houses around the world because the kings and queens were going broke. And these kids grow up with these entitlements and lifestyle, but they don't have a way to make enough income. And their expenditures grow and inflation, and they don't want to give up anything. And that's what America is right now. Like America doesn't want to give up anything and realize that we're fucked and do austerity. And, every economy goes through periods where you have to, there's just going to be depression, recessions and things. But Americans don't want to give up shit, especially at a time when the technology is growing and all these things. And people are weakened. People aren't going to do a garden to supplement their food budget, and, all these ways that they could change things. So, that's a recipe for disaster. People are getting weaker and more entitled and don't want to change and refuse to change a little bit now. And they're going to have to change it all at once. Like it's going to be like, fuck you, this is your new lifestyle. And it's not even, it's 10% of what it used to be. Now you have 10% electricity, 10% of the time, or you have 10%, internet or whatever it is, right? Like you have, all these things. You have 10% of the food you used to have, right? Like this is your new life. You got to get used to it. You don't have shit, right? You're no longer throwing away food. You're no longer expecting things to work on anything. Nothing's on time anymore. Everything is like, oh, I hope we have electricity tonight, and then all these other things disappear. No sports, no distractions, no these other. There's no money. There's no, it's like the whole system collapses. People are freaked out all the time, and then the people get militant and angry, and they turn into mobs, and there's no police anymore. Because of there's no money for anything, right?
Hands, and he sucked up all the attention. And so if he was going to act like a heat shield, don't be surprised that you get burned. That's my feeling. And,
boom, lay it down, dude.
One of the things, he's still going to be a successful business person. One of his companies, Neuralink, just got a big funding.
Neuralink, right? The chipping of people.
Bet him out in the car business, although he has a much tougher road there. Obviously, Starlink has challenges, but it's doing really well. The space stuff is really interesting. I mean, if he devotes himself to that, he would be great. But this is going to be probably years from now seen as an alleyway he went down.
What do you mean? Like, how can you sit there and say that and look at a $40 trillion deficit? Like, these two boneheads are talking, these two dudes are talking here. And, it was just an okay piece for CNN. Most of it is stuff that I believe that's fairly accurate. Always like with some kind of a, an anti-Trump bent, but truthful anyway, because they don't have to make shit up anymore because Trump is serving them up all the stuff that they want, right? But how can you sit there and pretend that he has a company in the future when he himself said that if we don't do something now, we're going bankrupt? We have a fucking $7 trillion budget plus another $1 trillion of interest and a $5 trillion income, right? And we can't do shit about it. Like, this is now known that the American people and the American government is not willing to trim the budget down to reverse our, like this is, if you were an individual family or company or any financial institution and you were in this kind of situation, you would have to go bankrupt. You would have to declare bankruptcy. Long ago, not like this year, but fucking 10 years ago. Like, we went from in 2001, it's in 24 years, we've gone from 2002, 23 years, we've gone from $6 trillion to $40 trillion, and it's going to be more by the end of this year, so it'll be even more than that. It'll be $42 trillion. I mean, well, I guess not, because we're at, 37, so it'll be close to 40 trillion, probably 39 trillion at the end of this year. It's crazy. And then 40 trillion, 43 trillion by the end of next year. $3 trillion a year, if not more. And then Trump adding this big, beautiful bill, who knows how much it'll jump up. Like, so, it doesn't matter if it was 35 trillion. If even it doubled from 6 to 12 trillion. But I mean, then it's like, well, maybe we can do something. We cannot do anything about it. It's a known factor. So what does that mean? That we are just adding the debt and it's never going to go in the opposite direction. What does that mean? Well, we're fucked. How does that play out? Well, there's other things. There's AI. There's World War III. There's all these other things and plans and, whatever that is, new virus, whatever the fuck they do, right? There's lots of things that can bring us down. Some asteroid hitting us. Who gives a shit what it is? But we should know that there's going to be something that's going to be a knockout blow. And if it is an economic collapse, it'll be the energy system collapsing or war or any number of things, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but there's, whatever we're doing right now is going to end. Like what we think of our lifestyle is ending right fucking now. And they're talking about this, oh yeah, he'll be doing a good 20 years. He'll be, well, what are you fucking talking about? Well, when we're $100 trillion in debt, at what point is it too much? At what point does it make the system collapse, right? Okay, so let's start off here with the beginning of the movie. This is the newly sworn-in President of the United States, played by Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, played by Harrison Ford.
Slowing down, but the only way we can overcome them is together.
So that was just it. His speech is horrible. Harrison Ford sucks as an actor. Like, he's just been in a lot of B movies, and he plays the same sort of, the Indiana Jones role, and they're action adventure things. Of course, Star Wars. He always overacts, and he sucks at it. So now he's old, and they're putting him in a lot of shit, and he's always making it worse. So the problem with this is that the character has been played by the actor William Hurt, who's a much better actor. And he's a villain character. He's a character who was up against Hulk. You know, they've had a couple of different Hulks, right? They've had 3 different Hulks, 3 different Hulk movies. And this character of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross was played 5 times by William Hurt. And so it's confusing because I knew the character. I mean, it's hard to keep all these things straight because the movies have, waned and waxed over the years. He played it in 2008 in the disastrous Incredible Hulk that they used split screen technology that was just out to make a really bad movie. And the Hulk in that movie, which I'll figure out in a second, was not the Hulk. He ended up not being a part of the Avengers Hulk movies. But then this guy was, in 2016, he played in the Civil War movie, Avengers Infinity War 2018, Avengers Endgame, and the Black Widow. In the Civil War, he was locking up all the heroes of the Avengers and holding them accountable for all the destruction they did when they were fighting supervillains. And he built this ship that he ends up being at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. And, but it's confusing because it was played by one actor 5 times in various movies, in a bit role as a villain, as a guy who was, a bureaucrat, a guy who was trying to stop people with superpowers. So, he was anti-superhero. And so you knew from the trailer that he becomes the Incredible Hulk, or he becomes the Red Hulk, which, whatever distinction, there probably was the Red Hulk as some comic book character, comic books years ago. But he becomes a Red Hulk. And he was anti-Hulk in his first movie. So they had these various Hulks in the, there was this guy, Eric Bana, who played it, I don't know, in 2001. There was a horrible movie. And then, of course, there was Lou Ferrigno, who played it in the TV show. And then there was Edward Norton, who played it, and he was supposed to be the new one for the MCU. And they settled for the shitty actor, Mark Ruffalo. Mark Mumbolo. So they already had a Hulk problem. But Mark Ruffalo was then the Hulk through all the Avengers movies. It was in various other movies as a character, but he never had his own Hulk movie, right? And, now, the She-Hulk was god-awful. I watched a little bit of that. It was so feminist and so stupid and almost like an anti-hero movie. And, they've kind of made a mockery of the Hulk, right? So they decide to have this guy's character, this guy William Hurt, who, he looked like this in the movies with the mustache. And he shaves off his mustache on top of it. So, that's... You can see from I wasn't aware of this guy in the comic books, but you can see this is his character, right? He's a tough general military guy. William Hurt isn't that guy, and so there's no continuity there. And he has a storyline. His storyline is he's lost his wife. He's now president. He's trying to change for his daughter's sake because his daughter has disowned him. His daughter was played by the horrible actress Liv Tyler, who played the role in 2008 and now is coming back around. She has a bit part, almost nothing, Dr. Betty Ross. And and he wants to win his daughter's affection back and prove to her that he's, a better man and he's changed. And, that's his whole MO. So, and he's trying to repress the Red Hulk that exists inside him that everybody knows is coming out because they showed a fight scene between him and the new Captain America in the trailer. So it's really poor plot construction. It has multiple holes in it. It's pretty brutal. And, I knew it was going to be bad when I didn't know what the fuck was going on with this character. I knew who they wanted the character to be. I couldn't remember who played the character originally. I had to look it up here. And then I remembered William Hurt. And, if some guy plays the character for 5 movies and then you substitute somebody like Harrison Ford, who's a known entity, and he's an overactor and he's a fucking ham, and you have poor script writing, then you have issues.
Upload the compound's covert entry points.
Covert? Really? You must be new.
Okay, so they introduced the new Captain America for the first time since the TV show, which was pretty horrible, but not as bad as this. They had a TV show on Disney Plus. And so he's about to go into a compound with some guy called the fucking Cobra or the Snake or whatever. It doesn't matter. And he's the old guy villain from Breaking Bad, and that part's hilarious. I'll show you that in a bit. And so, the Rattler, I don't know. So, he's going in and he's about to go into this, this deal and break up this deal. And, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. And so this new guy who he should know because this is his team. The other guy is his new sidekick, and we'll get into him because he's hilariously bad. But the other guy is, part of his team. He's got a 2-person team, and he doesn't know the guy's new, right? So the guy suggests that he goes in covertly, and he goes in and he figures out what's going on, and then he can go about his business of retrieving the object that's being sold, which turns out to be adamantium, which, he was talking about. Harrison Ford was talking about in the beginning, or he'll talk about it in a little bit. And so that's a whole nother bullshit thing, right? And so the so-called super metal adamantium, whatever. And so he says to the guy, "You must be new. I don't do shit covert. Why would I go in covert to some operation? I'm not really sure what's going on." So he just plunges down. And he starts using his special suit that he has, which is not bulletproof though, but his wings are now vibranium, which is a lesser metal, which we'll get into, than adamantium. And so these are just made up fucking comic book shit. But it's just this goofy way with bad script writing and bravado and shit that just doesn't make sense. And so he goes into the compound.
You don't need to worry. I'll find whoever wasted my time. You have bigger concerns.
So this guy's called Sidewinder Seth Volker. Is his real name. And, he's old as shit. This guy in real life is probably, I could look it up, but I would say clearly in his 70s, as is another character. And yet he's fighting these old guys. We'll get into that. Like this guy, he has a 10-minute fight with this guy later on in the movie. And he's about to get away. So we'll get into that in a second here.
Not that hard. I heard your rib go. You need a minute? No, let's get this over with.
So it's very unclear what this guy's powers are, what his suit does, and all the rest of it. So the guy didn't take the serum, so he's not as strong as Captain America and some of the other characters in the Captain America and the MCU. Because it makes you into a super soldier, this powerful superhero serum. He chose not to take it. And so he beats up lots of guys at the same time. He's wearing a suit that isn't bulletproof for God knows what reason, because they have all these other suits that are very thin and lightweight, these Iron Man suits, and that the guy should have a bulletproof suit because, he's up in the air getting shot at all the time. His wings are bulletproof, and of course he has the shield. And so he has to block shit with his shield and his wings. His wings have this power that if he gets hit on his wings, it builds up a la the Black Panther suit, he got this shit from Wakanda, but Wakanda didn't want to give him a bulletproof suit like Black Panther had. And so it's very unclear what his strength and powers are, because one time he's fighting multiple guys or fighting fighter jets and cutting off fighter jet wings and shit, which we'll show you in a bit. Other times he's getting his ass kicked by one guy who isn't like a superhero at all, right? This guy and this other Sidewinder guy who's like in his 70s. And so it's like, well, what exactly are your powers? Because it seems like they're changing constantly. And he should have a better suit, right? Like the shield and and wings. Yeah, he can fly. That's great. but he isn't much of a hero, right?
I did not die. And people are saying I did not die and stop. Who's saying that? People. Man.
So this is his new, what I assume is Puerto Rican, because the guy has a big connection to Miami. He's Hispanic, so I believe Puerto Rican would be the accurate assessment. He's his new sidekick. And I'm saying his ethnicity because in this ultra woke new Marvel universe, sex and ethnicity and him, her stuff are all very important, right? Now this guy's supposed to be funny and he's fucking not. They're joking around here, and he's got a team of not super soldiers, but high level operational, like Marine, whatever they are, right? Special forces kind of guys coming in. And they're in there and they're cleaning up the mess, they've secured the adamantium, which you don't know it's that yet. And Sidewinder he just jetted and no one knows where he is. He's like 70-year-old. He has a 3-minute fight with this big dude that, isn't a superhero. Kind of is getting his ass kicked for a while. The other guys, I'll show you what he does in a second because he's just really a bad character. The dialogue is atrocious. The acting is abhorrent. But the plot holes are like, why did you let Sidewinder get away? Like you're not even chasing him. He's got like 20 Marines there now and 2 guys with wings. And some old guys just fucking left like 2 minutes ago. And they can't track him down. He didn't have a plane they didn't even show him leaving. He would be hiding in the church they're in. Like he could be under one of the pews. They're not even looking for him, right? This happened just before he met back up with the Falcon. And with Captain America. So Captain America used to have a sidekick called the Falcon. I didn't like Captain America in the comic books. He was too bland, right? Too, Joe Patriot, whatever he was. I liked the Falcon because they didn't have very many black superheroes. And the Falcon could fly. And, and so they brought the Falcon into this guy who's a new Captain America into the MCU. And, some of the Captain America movies, and he became an Avenger, right? And so Captain America dies, he goes on, whatever. And so he gets a new Captain America, and now he needs a sidekick, like a new Falcon. And so they picked a Puerto Rican guy because they want to get as many demographics as possible. But there's like no chemistry, there's banter. It's like they've been hanging out for a while. It's like they've developed this relationship, but they're introducing, a new semi-villain, this Ross character, right? The guy, the Thaddeus character with Harrison Ford. They're introducing a new actor, and there's like no consistency. All these people are basically new people. There's one guy who was on the show, but not too many people watched the show. Not as many are going to watch the movie, and so it's like you're in this thing in mid-movie. Like they haven't established any of these characters, where they came from, no backstory. They just show up and it's like they're best buddies, and they're just not. Like it's like horrible. The acting's horrible, and then the rest of it.
Figured out how to shut him up yet. So what are we doing here? Orthopedics?
So his new sidekick, Hakeem. He's just meeting this guy, Isaiah Bradley, who was a old Captain America. Now, what I thought this thing was going to go south was that in the TV show, they were talking about how this was a black Captain America and how America wouldn't accept him, and just a lot of woke shit. And just, they've been doing this with the women in the MCU, and then just pushing these narratives and all the fucking bullshit woke stuff. And, it's just, you're watching a superhero movie. You don't want that shit, right? It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help prejudice or racism. It just pisses people off. And it's done in such a heavy-handed way and a preachy way. It has the opposite effect. But they actually didn't do that as much as I thought they would. But this movie was still much worse than any other Marvel movie. Now, I've been talking about this, the Ant-Man movie and the Thor movie and some of these Marvel TV shows, and how bad this has gotten. And a lot of it has been like the woke shit and the preachy shit. But the movies themselves are really bad. And so they introduce this new character. He meets this older guy, and he starts talking shit to the guy about his age. So the Sidewinder character in real life is 67, but he's clearly old. He's old. Like he was old in Breaking fucking Bad, right? And he was probably in his 50s then. This guy, Isaiah, whatever his name is 73 in real life. And he's like, he has like some training with this guy, even though this guy took the serum, but he was locked up and experimented on. And they're basically saying because he was black and he was, he hates America and he doesn't trust the government, but he's training. He's like this guy, the new Captain America. And they're going to do like some sort of capture the flag where Captain America without his suit has to go around the 73-year-old guy and grab 3 flags that are tucked into his pants, in the back by his butt. But before that, this happens.
That'll relearn how to walk after you bring a hit.
Yeah, it's not impressive, right? I just showed you 3 more impressive AI videos that were made by some people. Like, this is a level of special effects. This is a fucking, like a $400 million movie that they played. That's the bullshit. It just looks like a bad TV show. It looks like the old Hulk with Lou Ferrigno when they didn't have special effects and CGI. And the guy was just doing stupid shit like this, right? Like, wow, you're strong. Like they've had these like godlike characters in the MCU. And this is what they're reduced to, right? I mean, and the scripting and the acting is just, I really can't show you the dialogue, but it's hard to watch. Like I was giggling. I wish I could watch the whole movie and just comment on it because I had jokes throughout. Like I just, it was so bad, it was making me giddy.
What you've accomplished has given me reason to reconsider, which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
The Avengers.
So Anthony Mackie is a really bad actor. He has this one look he keeps on giving throughout the film, the same look as he stared at Eminem as Eminem is doing his rap battle shit in 8 Mile. Like he hasn't evolved as an actor since then. He has the same bullshit expression. It looks like he's constipated, right? But this guy locked him up before as a different actor. William Hurt locked him up after the Captain America Civil War movie, which might have been the best movie that they produced. So, historically, I read Marvel comic books. I didn't really like the DC comic books. And so I read a lot of the comic books. But then they started making movies about it. The Hulk TV show when I was a kid, when I was younger. And then some of these other, really bad Spider-Man movies and some of the X-Men stuff. And they were just bad movies. And so, I disliked all of them. But my kids started to watch some of the MCU movies. And, we ended up watching some of them together. And then when we were in India, it was like the one thing we kind of could have in common because I knew some of the history about the Marvel comic books. And we would go to the movies in India. It was kind of a whole special day. We go to this mall that was a lot like America, and, we'd go out to dinner there, and we would, we'd have a whole day, right? Like a whole experience. And we do it like once a week. And there were a lot of these Marvel movies coming out back then. And so, they weren't 5-star movies, but they were, they were exciting and, they were well-made movies. This was when they were building towards the, Avengers, Infinity Wars, and the Endgame and all that shit. And they were the biggest movies in the world, and, there was all this stuff with them. And, they started to go down with the last 2 Avengers movies. And then, of course, they brought in that horrible feminist piece of shit movie with Captain Marvel, who was always a male character. He was originally a male character. And they started to take these liberties to make it all feminist and woke and preachy and shit. But the movies were still crafted, better. Like the Captain Marvel movie had really tough dialogue and a lot of bullshit, and the character herself was unlikable and, kind of obnoxious. And, so there was the Marvel movie was being influenced by the Me Too movement, all the woke shit that was going on in the franchise, and they didn't realize it was going to backfire enormously. But then they just had problems with script writing and all the rest of it. But they have this interaction. This is the first interaction with a president who's locked you up. legally because it was a whole, and problematically. And he's been against superheroes, and all of a sudden he says, I want you to bring back the Avengers. And it's silly because this guy's team of people, I mean, there's nothing superhero about this movie. He's got a pair of wings and he's got some other shit. And, he defies the laws of physics, which we'll get into a few of the other scenes. But he doesn't have any, like, of the other Marvel characters in there. The Winter Soldier guy shows up, Bucky. I'll show you. They have a very awkward moment. But they were in a TV show together. And he's like the only other character from other Marvel movies that show up. The supervillain is a joke. And the Red Hulk ends up being just silly. Like obnoxiously silly, right? And so let's move on here.
And it's not controlled by an isolationist nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you adamantium.
So this is really problematic because there's been adamantium around for a long time with the X-Men, which don't seem to exist in the same universe with the Avengers and the Marvel characters. Probably because it was owned by Sony. And so the X-Men were not part of the Marvel cinematic universe, but in the comic books, like Wolverine would team up with Spider-Man. There's all these things, right? They had these team-ups and these kind of things that they always do. But they don't do it in this movie, and that's problematic. So he takes a big, giant shit on Wakanda here because they got this mountain of vibranium when some alien spaceship fell down and formed a mountain of it. And it's this intelligent metal that has all these abilities and possibilities, and it's the world's hardest, strongest metal. But now, all of a sudden, they're introducing adamantium, which has been around a long time in other movies that aren't related to the MCU. But it should be already there because, in the Marvel universe, the comic book universe, it's been around because Wolverine had it in his stupid-ass claws, right? And the other part that is problematic here is they had this this movie called what the hell was it called? The Eternals. And so I just looked it up. And in that movie, which was god-awful, and they've erased it. It's done. Those characters are out of the movies. Like, this was when Marvel was just shitting the bed. It did poorly in the box office. It was a fucking poorly crafted movie. Not nearly as bad as this, but it had this celestial. These Eternals were supposed to go to a planet and manage the planet until these planets that were actually big giant eggs, where these giant beings called the Celestials would be hatching out of the planet, killing everybody that was there. And they would go there. They were brainwashed. They couldn't remember that was their job. But they were preparing this. It was a whole fucking stupid thing. But they somehow stopped it from happening because Earth is so worth saving. And this Celestial dies in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And the Celestials are full of precious metals, and they're just huge beings. And they mine them, and they're finding this adamantium there. But it's weird because, like, they're trying to make connections with all these other failed projects and with new characters, new actors and old characters, and new characters that don't make any fucking sense. And, like, the plot, and I don't know if this was AI generated. Well, there is this, here, let me read this here. So there's multiple script revisions. There's all these script revisions. And Captain America Brave New World underperformed due to convoluted plot that relied heavily on prior MCU knowledge, making it inaccessible to casual viewers. The film's extensive reshoots and overuse of CGI led to disjointed narratives and unconvincing visual effects, detracting from the storytelling. Additionally, the absence of Chris Evans as Captain America and the film's political themes polarized audience contributed to its box office struggles. And generally when they have rewrites and reshoots is when they see what they got, they're like, oh my God, the actors suck, the storyline sucks, and they have to redo things to try to piece things together. And that never fucking works, right? And so it's horrible on so many fucking levels. I mean, it's probably their worst movie. And it looks like a B-level movie. They spent $400 million. The thing barely broke even. And so people are over Marvel. And and there's no way to bring it back because you try to create a whole new Marvel universe, a woke one, and it failed. And now you're fucked with it. You're fucked, right? because you got all these characters that are women and people of color and trans who are all complaining about their mistreatment and how hard it is for them to fit in, things like that, instead of, doing superhero shit and making it more complex, being preachy, and just bad storylines. I noticed in the new trailer for the Fantastic Four that the Silver Surfer is a female character, which is just another abomination. I'll get to that in another video. But they're just doing all this stupid shit, right? It isn't like comic books are great. Like comic books are flawed, and they have to be simple. The movies have to be simple. The heroic shit, everyone's in a post-apocalyptic mood and doesn't believe in this kind of some patriot boldly saving America. I mean, people are over that kind of shit, right? Chris Evans was a very annoying actor, very liberal. He sucked as Captain America. He was bad at the jokes, but he fit in with the rest of the whatever it was, right? And this guy, Anthony Mackie, is just a bad actor, unlikable, weird expressions, and they don't give him much to work with in terms of a script. And so, I don't know where the money went. Like, I don't know how they spent $400 million on this piece of shit. Like they say they did a lot of, CGI, and some of that must have been AI because it's not that old of a movie. But it's so bad, the special effects and the rest of it.
Isaiah, what are you doing?
Okay, so it's at this point in the video I realized I'm not going to get to the comments because I have 50 of these little fucking clips to get through. I don't know why it took so many. And my voice is going a little bit, and you got to get outside. It's a beautiful day out, and I need to do some work outside the farm. So, and I wish I was out there right now, but I'll soldier through. I mean, and so this is where the movie just gets goofy. As much as that AI bot said, that you had to have some knowledge of previous MCU details and things from past movies, and had to be flexible to allow a new actor to play an old character and make that mental leap. Because I don't think anybody, I didn't know the character's name. I saw William Hurt in a number of these movies. I had no idea what his name was. Like, if it was a Jeopardy question, which I don't watch the show, but I don't know that character's name. He's been in 5 movies. I've seen all 5 of those movies, or at least 4 of them, maybe 5, but I don't know that character's name. And so, it's a whole thing. But as much as, you have to have some knowledge, the people that do have knowledge of the previous movies are going to be scratching their head with some of the goofiness here. And so this guy Isaiah, the character Isaiah, so first of all, Captain America, when he goes to work out with Isaiah and his new butt buddy there, his new whatever he is, a sidekick, he says the president invited me to go to this this meeting, whatever it's a meeting of all these different countries, international meeting about harvesting this adamantium out of this dead creature's head and shit, body. And so he said he wouldn't go unless Isaiah came with him, because Isaiah's, this guy who was wronged by the government. He hates the government. So he drags this guy Isaiah, who doesn't want to go, and he says to the president, "I'm not going if this guy doesn't go." And they're going to talk about how great him and his little pal were at securing the adamantium that was stolen, which of course that's a whole nother, little storyline we'll get to. And so then all of a sudden, now this is a secured room. There's leaders from Japan, India, and France, which we'll get into because that's a weird thing, that are working on this joint collaboration with the President of the United States and all these other people. So it should be a highly secured area. And yet they let military personnel who are sitting there have sidearms. And this guy, Isaiah, takes a sidearm and shoots at the president. And they're obviously all under mind control. And it takes about 20 minutes before Captain America even poses that possibility, even though he knows Isaiah didn't do this on his own. And he has Bucky, his pal, who's going to show up later in the movie, who was under mind control and was triggered by keywords, which was known by the president in these other movies because it happened in Civil War that character was a part of, even though it wasn't Harrison Ford. And so all these people are aware of mind control. It was in at least 2 or maybe 3 of the Avenger movies. Mind control has been a big part of the MCU. I think a couple of the Captain America movies as well. So they've put these characters under mind control, and some of them are triggered by keywords. And so this guy Isaiah they later figure out, which they should have known immediately, that his cell phone lit up, and it brainwashed him. And then they play this song, and when the song goes off, these guys immediately go and try to kill somebody that they are pre-programmed in some way. And they make it obvious to the viewer, but it should be obvious to all these people, because if such a thing as mind control has existed in these other various movies, and it's a bunch of them, right? I mean, there's all these characters that have been mind controlled in one way or another. I would say it exists in 9 different Marvel movies. A bunch of them where the Falcon's a part of them, Captain America's a part of it, and they don't even get to that, right? Like, he was like, I don't know what happened. And, like it's just so fucking silly. I'm like, yeah, it's mind control. Everyone knows it. Everyone's watching knows it. Everyone in the fucking, these characters should all know it. Like, it's not something that's going to take some time for you to get to. So this is the part where Captain America gets outrun by this guy Isaiah. Now, the original time this guy, the Falcon, showed up in Captain America, I think it was the Winter Soldier, the second Captain America movie. Steve Rogers is running around track and keeps on lapping him and saying, on your left, because he's so much faster because he's had the serum. And so this guy, Isaiah, has a serum, but he's 73 years old in real life, and this is the way he runs. And like Captain America can't chase him down, right? He catches him, and Isaiah says, I just can't go back to jail again. But of course he fucking does, because there's no other choice. And then, the whole fucking debacle about mind control. It's not till the very end, even though they've known he's innocent for about half the movie, he's locked up the entire time. And so, it's just weird. It's just, I mean, just bad filmmaking.
Sam, you shouldn't even be in these situations. You're not Steve Rogers.
So there's a lot of self-doubt in these comic book superheroes. Self-doubt is always a part of it, right? Especially when they get their asses kicked or whatever happens. But the self-doubt in this thing is, like, it's cringeworthy. It's painful. Some of the self-doubt is because he's black. Most of it's because he hasn't taken the serum. And he's constantly being comparing himself to Steve Rogers, who was always doing stupid shit and getting himself into trouble as well. This guy, though, he didn't have to bring that guy Isaiah to the whole thing, right? But, and the other thing I should have mentioned, there's 4 guys that get up who are armed that end up being under mind control that also fire on the president and other people. And it's clear these guys are military guys and people in the government. They shouldn't even have a handgun because they're not part of the Secret Service. And, it's just fucking, it's again, bad filmmaking. But this stuff, they keep on bringing this stuff up about how he's not up to the task, and they already did that because they had a 6-episode TV show with the other guy, the Bucky character, and this kept on coming up then. The fight scenes are almost like if you were a high school kid or elementary school kid playing superhero or something, or those LARPers, like people do those LARPers where they have foam swords and they do these fake sword fights, right? It's almost like that level of choreography in terms of these fight scenes. I mean, it's that bad. But here's a 67-year-old actor, the Sidewinder, and they have like a 6 or 7 minute fight. And the Captain America doesn't have any weapons, but he has the guy dead to rights, but the guy pulls out a hidden gun because, they're talking bullshit. They do a lot of monologuing and asking questions, and the villain just gives up information very easily, like this volunteers it. And they have these real bad conversations. I mean, it's pretty epic. Lee bad.
We trust you to lead when you can't even keep your own house in order.
So they try to make these movies international. So they have, in the Indian Ocean, they have that colossal figure, whatever it is, the Eternal, or whatever it is. The thing I said before. I already forgot about it. And Celestial. And it's in the Indian Ocean, so you can see where India would have a claim on it. But the other countries involved are France, and India and France are giving them a hard time. And Japan, who's just the Japanese ambassador almost got killed, or president, or whatever the fuck he was, and during that debacle. And so they're all backing out, and they were going to share the adamantium between the three other countries. But it's a weird group of countries because India is right there in the Indian Ocean, but Japan isn't. And, the French, I don't know where the French came from. But of course they have that guy who's Puerto Rican now who's the sidekick. And there's going to be a person from another country. But they're trying to, they try to market these, make these countries feel included, which, these are shitty movies. It'd be one thing if you got a shout out from a movie that was quality and good and been popular. But, they're trying to milk this for everything it's got internationally because his movies can't hold up in America anymore.
Is that I would kill you for free. How often do you get a chance to kill Captain America?
So it wasn't anything to do with this guy that made him a quality actor in Breaking Bad because that was atrocious. I mean, these moments, these dialogue, it's bad. The acting is really fucking bad here. How often do you get a chance to kill Captain America? America.
Hello. Well done, Captain. But you're not going to like what's coming next. Who is this?
Okay, so this is when they introduced the worst supervillain of all time. We'll get into that in a moment here. So the guy lures him into a black site that's under the radar and off grid, and it's some sort of secret prison. And they show up in a truck. They have their uniform, so at least he has his uniform. So he brings this kid along with him who has no superpowers, and the only thing they have is wings to fly. But there's some protection they get from their wings, and he's got some things in his suit, right? It's better with the suit. Like there's, like I said, it's not bulletproof, but there's some advantages to wearing a suit. But he decides to go into this unknown environment with this, 19-year-old fucking wimpy kid and just his shield. And he has no idea what's waiting there for him. I'm like, why did you put your uniform? It's like when you see these movies where there's shooting and people are running with like a handgun and there's a machine gun laying there and they don't pick it up. Like in video games, you're supposed to pick up the weapons and save them for later if nothing else. I guess in some of the video games, but whatever. Just in life, if you're, in a situation where there's combat and people have machine guns and you have like a knife and you run by a machine gun, you don't pick it up, right? Or when, you see these heroes, they come out and they pick up the gun and then they take out the clip and they get rid of the bullet in the chamber and then they throw the gun away somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, you might need that, right? And so he needs a suit. Of course he needs a suit, but he's always getting his ass kicked and he's always underperforming. He's always less than. He hasn't taken the serum.
I'm a fool. I'm a fool to negotiate with someone so naive they don't realize they're being played.
Really bad dialogue here. I'm a fool. I'm a fool for negotiating with someone who doesn't realize he's being played. And so what this is about is the Japanese prime minister found out that the adamantium that his country had, was stolen by an American operative, which was this Sidewinder guy, and then recovered by Captain America, which makes this like some kind of false flag thing. And what's happened here is the villain, who actually works for this guy, the president, we'll get into that in a bit, stole it. And so he doesn't know, the president's clueless. They're supposed to have an intelligence community. And there's all kinds of ways that there should have been some reconnaissance and figuring out where this came from. But the Japanese have somehow figured it out. And the whole scene between the two leaders, the dialogue is atrocious. So in so many of these conversations, I mean, it's like I'm laughing out loud by how bad the writing is and the acting to go with it. But it's just fucking silly, right?
Protecting him. Ross knows I'm responsible for the White House, yet he's still letting Isaiah sit in prison for it.
You know he'll never change. Let me finish my work.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
I'm afraid I can't do that. So this guy, I don't know what his name is. The fuck, I'll go look it up. Samuel Stearns, this weird actor that plays this character. So apparently when the Thaddeus, whatever his name is, Thunderbolt guy, the Harrison Ford character, who used to be played by William Hurt, he captured the guy who made the Hulk made Bruce Banner into the Hulk. And he decided to use the guy as an asset because the guy got an extra dose of gamma radiation, which we all are getting, by the way, through our fucking internet and things like that. Like, there's all this gamma radiation and whatever it is, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or one of these fucking things, right? And none of us are turning into the Incredible Hulk. Like, you know, all these things that are poisonous, like a radioactive spider, all this shit, right? You know, they made stupid shit up that, you know, we all know that these things are harmful. But anyways, this guy got gamma radiation and made him smarter. And instead of helping the guy or locking him up, Thaddeus Young, Harrison Ford, kept the guy in prison and gave him more gamma radiation to fuck up his face, make his face all fucked up here. And it made him super smart. And he's like, always like, I already figured out the probability of that. Like he said, he's always, he's always figuring things out with his super brain. He's the dialogue between him and the other characters, right? I can't let you do that. And so this guy was locked up illegally with the idea that he was going to be pardoned when Thaddeus Young became president, or Thaddeus, whatever his name is, Harrison Ford character. And he doesn't pardon him. He screws him over. So this guy develops this brain control mechanism bullshit. And he's able to control all these soldiers, the ones that are, he's turned this prison into his own little, his base camp. And now he's just ahead of everybody because he's so much smarter. He figures out all the probabilities. And so he's like the worst fucking supervillain of all time. I mean, like in terms of being somebody who's super smart, he isn't even really that good. But he's also a sympathetic character because he's been locked up illegally. He's appealing to Captain America because he's locking up that other guy, Isaiah, illegally right now, even though he knows he's innocent. Because now the president knows that this guy did it, and he's been undermining him. And still, Captain America's like, I can't let you do that. Like, fucking... It's just really bad. I mean, all around.
I'm taking them in. I'll deal with this. Okay.
Okay, so they have this actress here, Shahira Haas, who is Israeli. Because they had to get an Israeli character in here somehow. And I don't think has been in any American movies. She has a disability, which you can clearly see. So she's about 4'8". I mean, I don't know what it says here. She's barely 5 feet. I would say probably not. Shahira Haas, the Israeli actress, has a physical disability due to kidney cancer treatment she received at the age of 2. The treatment included chemotherapy, stunted her growth, making her appear petite. Despite this, she has a successful acted in numerous films and television series, including Unorthodox in Asia, showcasing her versatility and talent. So there's two things that are problematic with this. The first one is she's obviously an Israeli citizen with an Israeli accent. They identify her as Israeli. And that she's been through the Black Widow program, which we'll come back to in a moment. But she's in charge of the White House security. She's in charge of the security of a president, and she's Israeli. And she's a, 4'11", disabled Israeli girl, like not even an American citizen. Just because they want to make this thing international, they always have to throw Israel a bone or whatever, so it's like really bad. But the other part is one of my pet peeves in these movies is they have women kicking men's asses that are trained fighters, often, military men, special forces, and many of them. Like she kicks 5 guys' asses here. She has no superpower. She has a disability. She walks weird. She looks unhealthy. She almost looks like a little bit of meth addict. She already kicked a bunch of ass in the beginning when they tried to shoot the president in that scene. And you're like, what are they doing here? So the Black Widow program, Scarlett Johansson plays, yeah, she's about 5'4", and she doesn't have any superhero powers, but she's been trained by this elite level Soviet spy program, and she had some kind of special suit or something, minimal, whatever. And she's kicking men's asses when she doesn't have the physical strength and ability to do it. It's no superpower of any kind. And then her sister's that other girl, whatever her name is, she's in the new movie that I haven't seen yet, the Thunderbolts, and she also went through that program, and she's a little bit thicker. She's a thick girl. Her name's Florence Pugh. But again, it doesn't make any sense that they're fighting often superheroes, other superheroes and supervillains, and they're holding their own or winning when they have no reason to do so, right? And this girl is disabled. Like, she's clearly disabled. She can't even walk right. She walks fucking funny. Like, she's just, something wrong with her. You can tell, like, she's disabled. And so, again, if they gave her some kind of ability or power or some kind of fucking, she was bit by some fucking toxic beetle or some shit, fucking, she ate some, some radioactive matzo ball soup or something, like, if they had some reason why she had superpowers, it'd be one thing, but she doesn't. And, again, she's in charge of the presidential security, and she's not an American citizen and not in the American military or any of these programs. So it's just bizarre. And these guys are watching her, these two heroes are watching this disabled girl beat up 5 soldiers, and they take out one in really bad fight scenes. And it's just like, are you serious? Like, I mean, at what point do you guys know this thing went off the rails? And you're like, they're probably $200-300 million in, and they're getting the screenshots from it. And they're getting the film, and they're like, holy shit, this is bad, right? Okay, so then there's the bad decisions, and I'm not even getting into all of them. Like, I didn't copy this while I was watching it, and thank God, because I would have probably had 200 clips. But this guy Joaquin, he's this computer. They always have some guy who can do shit on a computer that no one else, no hacker has ever been able to do. Like, anything they ask him to do, he's like, sure, I'll do it. Like the Mission Impossible. They have these tech guys who can do pretty much anything. They can crack any code. They can get into any system. They can fucking do whatever. And so this guy's hacking all kinds of computers, doing all kinds of shit, right? And the villain has the ability, and again, let me see the guy's villain's name here. The villain, here's. The villain's named Samuel Stearns. He doesn't even have like a villain name, right? And he's able to turn anybody into a mind control person. And he's doing this with all military people. And so they're now in this base of soldiers that are, like, he gets their biological data. He's able to do this thing. But he could do this for everybody, right? And instead of doing that and just taking over the world, he just wants to embarrass the president. And, they go to this military base, which these are Captain America's guys, the guys that showed up when he was doing that operation to retrieve the adamantium. And they're not sure if any of these guys are possibly mind controlled. So this guy arbitrarily plays the song. Now, if one of these guys is mind controlled, they're going to have to beat the shit out of him. So at the very least, they're going to have to hurt this guy, maybe even kill him. And he might kill one of them, right? He might start shooting before they get to him. So this kid just randomly plays the song, but he doesn't say, all right, let's put all these guys in handcuffs, explain what they're doing to the military personnel for their own safety. At least disarm them and have them stand, far away, and they can all see if any of these guys or all of them end up being mind controlled. But instead, he just plays a song, not warning fucking anybody, which is just really fucking stupid, right? And then when they're done, these guys are all listening to the song. They don't explain to these guys that this guy's able to put people under mind control, because it might become important later on when one of their guys gets compromised. Like, there's just a total lack of any kind of military integrity and strategizing and planning. I mean, it's just fucking stupid, right?
Everyone only seeing one thing.
and when showing there's more to you. It's not about when times are easy. It's about moments like this.
Just a really bad actor, horrible dialogue. And there's about, I would say, 15 different pep talks in this movie.
Sir, you need to convince Japan to ground their plane.
So Japan goes rogue, and Captain America and the rest of these guys are like the fleet. The president goes out on the ships, puts himself in jeopardy, even though there's an assassination attempt, and he goes with his fleet to battle the Japanese, because the Japanese are going out rogue and they're just trying to grab as much adamantium they can. Somehow they have a fleet already over there in the Indian Ocean, which they have to go around all of the Asian continent to get to the Indian Ocean. It's just like fucking stupid shit, right? And the president would never go on a boat where there's military activity going on. And so two of the pilots for the American aircraft carrier end up being compromised, and they are flying, trying to shoot down the Japanese to start a war, all because this guy wants to embarrass him. And so Captain America goes up with his sidekick. He's simultaneously talking to his sidekick and to the president, and the president is talking to the Japanese prime minister and the guy who brainwashes the villain. It's like really fucking confusing, and it just wouldn't happen, right? This guy's got a headset, the president's got a headset, and he's talking to three different people at the same time.
Presidency, Mr. Prime Minister, 2 of our pilots have gone rogue. Call off your planes. We're being manipulated. When
the Captain America said that Isaiah was under mind control, this guy who knows about mind control laughed at the idea, but then he now is trying to convince the Japanese prime minister the same thing that he scoffed at.
Joaquin, whiskey's coming at you. Copy that.
So remember that his suit is not bulletproof. And, if you're traveling at a certain distance, your eyes only see so far ahead. So your eyes are limited to how far they can see. Like one of my buddies had a Ninja motorcycle. He was going 140 miles an hour on it, back in college. And he saw these cars coming up, like little dots, and next thing you know, he was by them. And the next day, he put his motorcycle up for sale because he knew he was going to die on it, right? So people who know about head-on collisions would also know this, right? So I slowed this down. So there's no way, he doesn't have super eyesight. He doesn't have a super goggles, anything like that. He doesn't have anything that could slow anything down. So he's flying straight at this plane. And, when you're flying that fast, you can't you see his wings are blocking the bullets. His shield, he's flying with his fucking shield. And he comes in, uses his vibranium fucking wings to slice this guy. It's so fucking horrible. It's just fucking silly. It's just silly. And they always have the shield, like all this America stuff, but the guy himself, like the actors come out, like it's just all the anti-Republican, anti-patriotic stuff and all that, all the people, Republicans who call themselves patriots, which I don't like. I think the whole thing's stupid, right? I don't think you can be a patriot. You can't be a patriot and also be a godly person. You can only serve one master. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The whole thing's a fucking disaster.
Rage. Why don't you just let it out? Are you all right, sir?
Okay, so the guy's trying to make him Hulkify here. And, if you've seen any of the other Hulk movies, it doesn't take that long for you to get provoked, and then you can't stop it. But he's fighting it because he's somehow better than the rest of the guys, even though he was a villain up to this point in all the other Marvel movies. And the guy doesn't get him to change into a Hulk. He tries forever. The villain, he's going to be upset about it in a second. But, this guy has this headset that talks to 3 different people at the same time, right? And he could easily just turn this guy off or take the headset off. The guy's provoking him and saying all these things and trying to get him stressed out and trying to get him to turn into the Hulk because he wants to humiliate the guy because the guy locked him up forever and didn't follow through on his pardon that he promised. I mean, it's just, all you have to do is take the headset off. Like, you don't have to listen to the guy.
hiding your assassins behind the Captain America.
He's trying to bring them down now, sir.
If those pirates...
All this shit's going on at the same fucking time, right?
They're still chasing us. We're trying to help them. Because Ross won't tell them who's really behind it.
So the guy said, hey, we're trying to help them. Why don't they know? Because they have Japanese planes up there and mind control American planes up there, and these guys are trying to fight them off with their winged suits. And there are no missiles and no anything else. Plus, they can't kill anybody because everyone's kind of innocent. But also, there's all that. And he says to him, why don't they realize we're trying to help them? We're on their side. Gee whiz. Why did they help us, Captain America? The guy says, because the president won't tell the Japanese guy who's behind it. But the Japanese guy won't know who the prime minister won't even know he's talking about. And so, it's stupid. Like, he asked him, then who is? I think that part got cut off. Who is then, if this isn't, and the president won't say, right? Because, he's embarrassed because he's tied to that guy. But, it's just bad story.
Smoldering behind the eyes.
This is it goes on for like 5 minutes, the guy trying to provoke him to go Hulkify. So we just saw there, he used his shield, even though his uniform has got no ability to block a bullet, to go through a fireball of an exploded missile. And then he turned precisely at the right time to use the tip of his wing to set off another missile that blew up right while he was next to it. And he's got a suit on that doesn't block fucking bullets, but somehow he's able to absorb the blast of a missile. Like, just stupid ass shit, right? Like, he doesn't have any superpowers. He doesn't really have a good special suit. He's got some wings and a fucking shield, and that's about it, right? And fucking somehow, at one point, he's getting his ass kicked by a 67-year-old guy and getting outrun by a 72-year-old guy. And then he's got to block bullets that are going to come in and kill him because his suit isn't bulletproof, even though, that's the technology that's well available for everyone but Captain America. And then he can do this shit with missiles, with his eyesight he doesn't have special super eyesight and super reflexes or anything like that, right? That allow him, with an oncoming missile that's coming at him at whatever 100 miles and 200 miles an hour, whatever it is, these missiles are flying at him. He's able to turn at the precise moment and cut a fucking like a can opener, which makes the missile explode for no obvious reason. And he's able to survive all that shit, right?
I got one. Go after the other. Back off. I'll get it. No, I got it. Back off. I got it.
Okay, so Joaquin is doing a good job, holding his own, not a problem, not a liability. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Then all of a sudden, he's going after this guy, just like he's been doing the whole time for the past 10 minutes where they're fighting these fucking planes. And Captain America's like, no, I'll do it. And as soon as he says that, the guy's going down. The guy was going down as soon as the fucking movie started. That fucking Joaquin was going to end up in the fucking hospital, if not dead. It just was there for everyone to see. This guy was a fucking, just a victim of, you knew that Captain America was going to blame himself because of all this fucking bullshit. It was 100% predictable. It happened in the most predictable way.
Joaquin's down. I'm going after him.
We'll send search and rescue. You have to stop Jackal.
Damn it. I'm putting an end to this now.
Damn it. I'm putting an end to this now. Damn it. I'm putting an end to this fucking right fucking now. I'm putting an end to this. Fuck that. And so, why did you wait? Joaquin got hurt. Why did you put it, if you could have chose to put an end to it at any time, if you had control over the end of this thing, now I'm putting an end to it now that Joaquin's going to the fucking hospital. Fuck. Now I'm going to take this thing seriously. Jackal is the name of the pilot that's been compromised by, mind control.
There, you can rip their fleet apart with your bare hands and kill Captain America.
Yeah, this is still going on while all that other shit's still going on.
Get Saki back on the line. We can fix this.
That fucking just happened. The guy did turn into the Hulk, and this guy lets out a primeval scream. It's the worst fucking supervillain in fucking history of supervillains. So Captain America is able to get the mind control pilot out of the second mind control pilot out of the plane, and he then takes control of the steering wheel with some kind of, I don't know, bat ring or some bat fucking rope he's got on him. I don't know what the fuck. And then he rides it like a fucking horse, and he lifts the plane up so it misses the ship and doesn't kill the president and other people on it. And then, with a suit that's not bulletproof, crashes into the sea and somehow immediately pops back up and flies out of the sea with his jetpack.
It's a private room. Go away.
Oh, did you lose a sidekick? Is your sidekick hurt? Is your sidekick hurt? Did you get a boo-boo? Your sidekick got a boo-boo. Are you sad about your sidekick?
The doctors had to restart his heart.
Did he get the vax? What happened? So he had to restart the guy's heart. His sidekick. And, we know what that's all about.
It makes me think of Steve. How many alien invasions did he stop again? Two. Wow.
You mean you don't know how many alien invasions he stopped, right? Like, one alien invasion happened in New York before this character was introduced in Captain America Part 2. It was the very next movie after that. And everybody knew it happened because it happened in fucking New York City. Aliens flew down into New York City. The second time this guy was involved in the Infinity Stones Endgame, he was a part of it. He got a specific thing because he came back to life. He was half of the population that died. He came back to life to fight off the aliens that were there with Thanos. So he was involved in one of them, and everyone else knew the other one. And it's only two. How many times did Captain America participate in, stopping the fucking alien invasion? 2? Oh man, 2 times. That's crazy. I mean, I can't. You were involved in one of them. You get as much credit as he did. He didn't fucking do shit. Right? It was Iron Man that killed Thanos with Infinity Stones. And so the reality is he did one other than you did, right? Wow. I mean, I can't live up to that too. It's too, like, everyone in the planet in this especially any American would know that Captain America did this twice. Like, especially him. They went to the Captain America Museum together, these two guys, in the TV show. How many times did he save the world again? 2. Wow, 2 fucking 2. Whoa, shit. I mean, it's such a fucking bad movie.
I should have took the serum. Like Steve, like you. Why?
Why? Because he's constantly getting his ass kicked. He's just a normal human being trying to fulfill a role already. There's, prejudice, racial prejudice, which you guys are pointing out constantly. The fact that Steve Rogers was bigger than life 1950s hero that emerged from frozen ice. And there's about, I don't know, hundreds of other people have this very same serum. Most of them are supervillains. This guy was, kidnapped by the Ruskies or the Germans or whatever it was. The guy, Bucky, and he got the serum. There's another guy, a white prejudice guy that they picked over even though Captain America gave this guy his shield, it was his to give. He gave it to the Falcon. They picked a white guy over him, and that was the whole thing about the TV series. And that guy sucked because he's semi-racist, and I guess he's now part of the Thunderbolts. He took the serum. The serum doesn't seem to have any side effects. In fact, everyone should just take it. There'd be a society of fucking Captain America level superheroes. But this is one guy, you have a job to do, and you're getting your ass kicked constantly by old guys and fucking women and fucking whatever it is, right? That's why you should take the serum. He's at a fucking huge disadvantage by not taking it.
Because I wasn't. Say what you need to say. Steve made a mistake. No, he didn't.
Bucky killed people at the UN in the Civil War when he was mind controlled, and he destroyed, a good portion of New York and did a lot of damage and hurt people, probably killed a number of people under mind control. And he had trouble coming back from it, had psychological issues, and now he's running for Senate. But he says, Captain America goes, Steve made a mistake by giving me the shield. And they covered this, these two same clowns covered it in the TV show that probably nobody else watched but me and a few other people. And I watched it because it sucked so bad. And it was way better than this. But they already went through this about this guy's insecurities and how he wasn't enough and should he take the serum or not. This already was hashed out, right? Bucky shows up for, he doesn't do any fighting. They don't have, do they not have a payroll to bring in one other superhero like somebody else from some of the other movies? They have nothing in here. Like, it's absolutely fucking horrific. Like, it's such a bad fucking movie. It's like hard to imagine they could make this bad a movie for $400 million.
Was that
Yep.
future Congressman James Buchanan Barnes? He's taller in real life. Nice smile too. Good amount of teeth.
You can see by the way she walks, you're like, what's wrong with her? Right? The way she talks, like there's something, holy shit, like what are they doing here? Like, it's just anybody can be a superhero now without even having superpowers?
Maybe we could take a walk sometime. See the cherry blossoms. Like the old days.
Yeah. That could be nice.
Yeah, that could be nice. Liv Tyler's got the worst voice. So this thing is just silly. Now, there's no reference, as far as I know, to cherry blossoms and them walking together. It was a different actor that there was conflict because she was Bruce Banner's girlfriend in one of the Hulks, with that other guy that was in, whatever his name is now that plays the Hulk. In the recent ones, it was Edward Norton. Right now it's Mark Ruffalo. Mumbalo. So, she's been gone forever. And he chose his military career over his daughter. It was a whole fucking thing. And now she's pissed at him. And they're trying to rework this relationship to make this guy sympathetic. The guy did mind control. He locked people up. He did experiments on people, illegally locking them up. He locked up superheroes that they needed to save the world. He was always on the wrong side of things. He used the furious, he's a super villain. Basically, he's part of a villain class. And now they're trying to make him into some sympathetic character.
When I turn this dial, it will disrupt your heartbeat. I take no pleasure in your death, but I can't have you calling the captain. Who are you? Isn't it obvious? I'm the hero.
Okay, so this is Captain America's guy here that's getting his heart blown up by this dude. Who can blow up his heart with his fucking thing. He just shows up out of nowhere. So this guy has these pills analyzed that the villain's given to the president. And so he figures out that it's gamma radiation, which means the president is getting gamma radiation, which turned the Hulk into the Hulk. And so he's about to call Captain America. This guy shows up at this inconvenient time, or the best possible time for himself. He figured out this was going to happen because of his super brain or something. They don't really explain it. And he has this really bad, silly fucking dialogue with this guy, his heart's who he was, and him saying, I get no pleasure in your death. He's been killing people left and right. He has no concern for human life, right?
But you haven't figured out how.
The pills. I got somebody on that too.
Not anymore, you don't.
Not anymore, you don't. Wait, did you kill him? Did you freaking kill him? And he gave that look, Anthony Mackie gave that look he gives. That look like he's constipated. Wait, what happened to that guy? This guy, my friend. Did you kill him?
Bro, we both know you can take me out with one punch. But I don't think you want to do that.
So there's a whole scene where he's giving a speech, and that villain comes over the loudspeakers, and he couldn't provoke him to be the Hulk in a very stressful war scene where he had all this stimulation going on around him, and he was, it took about 5 or 10 minutes, and he fought it off. But then he's given a speech, and he just gives into the anger, even though he's, doesn't want his daughter to see that he's turned himself into a Hulk after the way he treated her boyfriend. And then the embarrassment all across the board. But right in front of everybody in a speech, he turns into Hulk. Captain America lures him to the cherry blossoms that this guy and his daughter used to like to walk through, because that's not fucking weird at all. And then he just calms this guy down after they've been fighting a while and just can reason with the Hulk, because the Hulks are always reasonable.
But I think you're trying to change. Now's the time to prove it to the world. Prove it to Betty.
Even though they've been on the opposite side of things forever, and he's locking up his friend. Harrison Ford confessed to him about his daughter Betty. Some point in the movie. I mean, there's so much I'm not showing you that was really bad. Like the whole thing. There's not one good scene. There's not one. I mean, everything. There's not one good joke. There's not one good exchange of dialogue. I mean, there's nothing. The whole thing is a fucking absolute mess. And just like that, he changed back into a skinny old friend, another old guy. He's battling all old guys basically in this thing. It's Captain America against the geriatric old guys and the handy capable, right? And he mostly gets his ass kicked throughout the movie because he didn't take the serum and he's not really much of a hero.
I told you I'd get you out.
It took you so long.
What took you so long? I mean, the banter's so bad in here, the banter. What took you so long?
You need to shut the up when grown folks is talking.
It's all right. We could just sit and talk for a little while.
I like that.
So he ends up getting locked in the prison that he built for the other superheroes that the Falcon was locked up in with these other people, Captain America, the rest of them.
In this world, do you think you're the only ones? Do you think this is the only world? We'll see what happens when you have to protect this place from the others.
So this is the part that they give you after the credits. This really bad supervillain who's locked in the same place. All he has is a really high intellect, and he can predict the future, and he can just knows all the possibilities and outcomes. He's like, basically what AI is now for the. And so, he's like a tenth as good as AI. And so he gives this prediction about how there's going to be this multiverse. So the problem is the guy that was supposed to be the villain in the multiverse ended up, in real life, the actor beating the shit out of his girlfriend. So they had to cancel him. They're bringing in Doctor Doom, who's going to come in with this disastrous Fantastic Four movie that looks like it's going to be as bad or worse than this fucking piece of shit they just made. And they're going to try to put all this thing together where, at some point, it's not going to be cost effective if they keep on breaking even or losing money on all these fucking movies, right? And, they had all the merch and all the shit they were going to do at Disney World, but they've lost their brand. They destroyed this guy's brand in this whole movie. They made him look weak and pathetic and whiny and insecure and just all the things, right? And, I've talked about how things can suck retroactively. And, I enjoyed the Star Wars movies when I was a kid. But as I got older, I saw they all sucked except for the sixth movie. But the last three are, they're laughable. They're ridiculously bad. Harrison Ford's in one of them. And it made all the rest of the Star Wars movies suck worse because it's sucking retroactively. And that's what these movies are doing. They're destroying the Marvel Universe, which is great because it's owned by Disney, ABC. And they've turned into a joke. Like, they've turned these movies into a fucking joke. And the characters. And, with high budgets and now with better special effects. And they still can't get the fucking thing done. I mean, just, they've lost the capability of making these movies were never great, but they were at least good. And, they had a lot of, they were big budget, so they had a lot of spectacle in them. Now the fight scenes are laughable, the characters are a joke. And this movie that, the AI said was heavy on knowing a lot of the things from the other movies. And, you couldn't watch it as a standalone movie. And yet they butchered or botched and steamrolled lots of the storylines and some of the old things from the other movies. So it was a disaster on every possible. It's like they must have been trying to make this thing bad. Whatever it is, I got to wrap this thing up. I got other things to do. Holy shit! I was just about to publish this. I forgot the most important part. Brave New World was from Aldous Huxley. There was 2 books. I had to read one of them in high school. Other people read at least one of the 2 books of 1982, George Orwell's these 2 dystopian, futuristic, predictive, apocalyptic type of situations. And Brave New World, which I saw the film and watched the movie, is more accurate to what's happening. The people were all on Soma. There was no couples anymore. They didn't reproduce. They had babies being brought up in boxes. There were orgies, and everybody was bisexual, and they were, all these things. If you see Brave New World, if you read the 2 books, you'd say Brave New World is a lot more accurate than George Orwell's book. But they both, were about a dystopian world order. Brave New World is a title taken just from that book, which we know how it ends up. So there's that. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.